So maybe a bit of historic context. So we were actually one of the first companies that signed up for the UN Global Compact in 2000. We have had 2 decades of working on this topic. So some of the best practices I dare to say we have is that, first of all, our CEO is also our Chief Sustainability Officer. So there is a very, very clear commitment from the very top that this is a topic that is integrated into our strategic framing of the organization with the strategy. I think also we were one of the first companies that signed up for the Science-Based Target Initiative, and with that committed to the 1.5 degree scenario under the Paris Climate Change Agreement. One of those levers that we have activated is a complete transformation of our energy consumption towards renewables by 2030. So I think those are things that we are at this moment in time quite proud of. I think the whole topic of Scope 3 emissions, CO2, PCF, of course, where TfS is a leading dimension, that's the next generation of best practices that we are hoping to get to. We can see a sort of parallel between what we experience now with Scope 3 and PCF calculations versus assessments which started 10, 15 years ago. And I think one of the underlying challenges we have is that there are many players out there who also see an economic benefit of actually leveraging their own unique space here. So there are forces in the world that in a way are working to prevent that we have a standardized methodology that everybody can just plug and play. And we need to recognize that exists because there is motivation to be a bit more self-serving than what TfS is aiming. And of course, our intention is to make all this available for the world for free, such that we can focus on impact and activities, implementation of all our great plans. Well, I think in the spirit of Together for Sustainability, the clue lies in the name, Together, and that's exactly what we also did with the PCF calculation. Various members of TfS were asked to join the work stream 5, trying to share their best practices, and teams came together looking at what is it that we do, what do we think is meaningful, how do we make it pragmatic and implementable and as simple as possible. They jointly created a pilot where we went to all our suppliers, many of our suppliers from across the world, including lots of participants from China. We then asked, what feedback do you have for us? Is this good enough? Is it simple enough? Can you work with this? And would you consider that this is something that we can scale up in an industrial level? And that feedback was then incorporated into the guidelines which are ready to be launched now. So we will listen, we will make sure it's pragmatic, that it can be implemented rather than ending up in a paralysis. Again, in the spirit of Together for Sustainability, we are moving from this ego-centric approach to an eco-centric approach. And with 10 years of practice, we are very, very good at it. But as any process, it is a bit of give and take. And I think here our maturity across the organization, also as we have now increased to 37 members, the considerations we have to have in mind have just been broadened and increased. And we're pretty good at this, and we feel very proud that we have created something where we are looking at the overall good and not only what's good for our member companies individually. We are, of course, very excited now to roll it out to the world and make sure that we can improve also as we go along. But the philosophy and the aspiration here is, of course, that if chemicals is able to make something simple, we can make sure it's implementable, practical. This will also have a positive impact on other industries. And we, of course, do hope that this is now a standard that can find itself into other industries, downstream industries, where we know that right now they're struggling themselves to establish their standards. So And we have connected and collaborated with a lot of those multipliers out there who is trying to do exactly that, so that the methodology will be made available to people. We are ready to launch, we are ready to engage, and we are ready to be together, change the world, and become more sustainable. We are part of an ecosystem where there's lots of great work also happening that may be helping us to accelerate the impact. So I think we want to make sure that these partnerships are nurtured, that we have the dialogue, that we can understand what are the next sort of natural steps that needs to be put in place. But first things first, now we're going to make sure we all understand how do we do it, how do we make sure it's being shared in a way that respects data privacy, that respects the interest of our suppliers to keep their data, under their control. And then, we will hopefully also get into capacity building of how do we then not just measure it and talk about it, how do we have an impact? What is it that we can possibly do around introducing new technologies as well to drive the impact? So that's step number 2, but I think we're very, very proud to have number 1 established for chemistry, hopefully broader for the world across all our members, but also all our suppliers, and we'll take it step by step. We, of course, picked up on many of these particularities that we need to respect. There are regulatory frames that we need to make sure we are operating within. And one topic is also data, privacy, if you will. And we are very, very conscious that topic, of course, is being interpreted slightly different across the world. That's also why the infrastructure we're putting in place is set up in such a way that the suppliers really have the right to choose about who gets to see the data, in which manner is it being shared across the broader community, the members who have access then to the data, such that they can retain control and that the data really sits with the suppliers, it's in their control, they are the ones who are. And we've seen the emergence of the Chinese chemical industry. Many of us are very, very dependent. We are partnering with the chemistry over the last couple of years, and we've seen this gradual maturity. And again, here our partnership with CPCIF that we have also nurtured and we have enjoyed over the last couple of years has actually helped us in a way get access also to maybe small, medium-sized enterprises that we didn't necessarily have access to. So all the joint training, all the joint capacity building, making sure that our content is translated also. I mean, there's a lot of good intentions and collaboration necessary for having this. And then having the role models, having Van Hua and Cenex joining us in also the leadership capacity, making sure that the voice of China, this is what we need, that is being infused into our future solutions. So we are proud, we are excited, we are also still hopeful and convinced that we will be able to deal with this enormous challenge that we have around decarbonization, and with that have a positive impact on future generations. That's the most important part of anybody's job, to make sure that we leave our planet, our existence for future generations to enjoy. So PCF is it's a milestone actually on that journey.